I'm glad I shook up people with that conversation, because so much that was ignored in conversation started to come up. Like, there's a lot of housewives that are suffering, like they are being financially abused, but because in this country, financial abuse is not a thing, And for me, I was just happy that people got annoyed enough to talk about these things. And I think I'm very happy to be the voice of uncomfortable conversations.
Boy, let's talk to them. Let's talk chicka, let's talk to them. Let's talk to let's talk to them. Let's talk chicka, let's talk to them. Yeah, I'm from a beautiful place, the Pearl of Africa. Hailing with a 256, it's in my blood. That's a gem where the mountains rise, with stories untold. The tapestry of cultures unfolding, so vibrant and bold. A symphony of stars, a celestial light. The drums beating, echoing through the night, just like a beacon of light. A reflection that's coming up from the Nile. I'm flowing straight into the heart of Africa, with timeless stories untold. What's up, Doug?
Elevate your podcast game today. Are you looking for a perfect place to record your podcast in Kampala? Look no further. Danceoff Studios, located at Ivory Plaza on Wilson Street, Level 3, Room 4, is a perfect place for you. Danceoff Studios has professional recording equipment, comfortable and creative environment, expert for all your podcast needs. Book your session today. Find them on all social media platforms or reach out to them directly to secure your spot. Let them make your podcast dream a reality. Danceoff Studios, where stories come to life.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Masa kurutimbe, kabina kuntebe. Yeah, it's me.
Welcome back to the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, the podcast where real stories, powerful voices, and unapologetic creativity take center stage. And today, my guest, she's a force. A lawyer on paper, but chose her own path. A once-in-a-while dancer with moves that speak louder than words. An actor, a podcaster, a radio presenter, a media powerhouse. And when she steps on the mic, spoken word transforms into spiritual experience. She's not just a storyteller, she's Africa's spoken word artist of the year. Get ready to meet a woman who breaks boxes, bends expectations, and boldly owns every title she wears. Or doesn't. Ladies and gentlemen, Maritza is in the building. Let's go! Oh.
Every time I get introduced so beautifully, I get shy. Who is that? Who are you talking about? Hi, that was so lovely. I feel worthy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I started taking time to. I was doing research about my guests because I want to have a conversation, a meaningful conversation, because you can host somebody you've never talked to and then not like put in some work. So I get to love and respect the people that I host. So it's, oh my God, this person has done this, they have done this, they have done this. And sometimes those things get missed by the people who even know you and they don't know you've done this. So I take pride in that and I really appreciate the work that you guys do and you do yourself.
You pulled out the dancer one. It's coming back. It's coming back slowly. I was a dancer for about 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
when
great.
I just left it behind.
On one podcast you do, actually, I'm going to shout out all the podcasts that you've been to because you being on the podcast, you support us. Like I always tell people, like we'll rise by lifting each other. You coming here is giving you an opportunity to talk about you, but it also give me an opportunity to have content to put out. So I appreciate you and I appreciate the support you put. You never say no to anybody. You go to every and any podcast, whether they have 2 followers or whether they have 1. As long as you get an opportunity to speak, you go. When I was doing your research, I can't count how many interviews you've done that are on YouTube that are where. I'm like, Panang.
Swareko?
Yeah, I got me there. Yes, sir.
Thank
But
you.
in
Thank you
one
for
of the interviews I
appreciating that.
I saw, actually, shout out to the Tribe UG podcast. Great people.
Yes.
You've been on that podcast. You talked about something. You have the twice, yeah, mother syndrome. And when I was reading your intro, man, Nangi, she does this, she does that, she does that. Yes, mother syndrome. For the people who didn't watch the episode and don't know what mother syndrome is, can you break it down for the people?
You guys, in the Bible, we all know the story of Martha, Mary, and Jesus. All right. So I really love that story because it shows like family dynamics and how siblings operate, but then it also shows how those dynamics should not work against you, right? Anyway, if you're a spiritual person, you'll get into the story. So the story of Martha, Mary, and Jesus is Jesus comes to visit his best friend's home, who was Lazarus at the time. He comes to visit the home and, he's preaching with Mary. Mary is seated there hanging on to every word the Lord Jesus Christ is saying, she's receiving. Martha ali muchiyungu, afumba wali, she's cleaning here, she's doing what, like, yeah, buza. At least that's how they tell the story. They tell the story that, wali wono mwala, ebyoko ya buza, that is her forte. And then,
Right.
like in the Bible, the scripture, Jesus actually tells Martha, Jesus is like, Martha, you have many trouble. Like, basically he's telling her, you're carrying more problems than you need to carry. So in church, like, there's some churches you'll go to where instead of like celebrating different characteristics, they'll shame you for it. There's a church I was in where they would shame people for the Martha syndrome. And it's like, are you guys actually working against what God has created? God wasn't saying Martha was wrong in the way she was expressing herself, Even Jesus was just trying to tell her, like, there's a time and place for everything. You can be still and receive from God. You don't always have to be working. So I wish that message was preached more than using, Martha syndrome. She doesn't sit down. She occupies, So I wish people would take Bible stories with the positive light of them. But that really is the Martha syndrome.
Mm-hmm. And then you say it's actually actual syndrome. But no, I loved it. I love that part. And also the episodes that I listened to, or the podcasts I listened to, I didn't really get somebody who asked you where you got the name Mama Kampala. Somebody did ask you, but then they put in a second question. So your answer was basically the second question part of that. So I want to focus on that. How did you get the name Mama Kampala?
I came ready for you. As like, Bonnie is going to ask me why I am Mama Kampala. So, you want the real story or the PR story? Because they're just
give me the real story. Tuliku podcast. Tewali Bulango.
Tewali PR. So it's actually Mama Cla. First of all, let me shout. Is it okay if I do a little plug? Because I put on my jacket today coincidentally. Denim Cartel put the city on my back. All right. They gave me this Mama Cla jacket. And that's really who the brand was. The brand was Mama Cla. And how it started in 2012, the year I turned 20, I was very excited to transition, into like a new decade. I was excited to see who I would become, the things I was beginning to explore, the things I wanted to explore. So I knew I'd get into spoken word poetry. I was still in law school at the time, but it just felt like, when a year is coming and you feel like, like beautiful things are going to come, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to rebrand myself on my socials because I was active on socials for a long time. From like 2007, I was very active. Facebook, joined Twitter 2011. I was active there as future Mrs. M. So in that transition, and just I think even to commemorate who I was becoming and the new journeys I wanted to get into, I thought to myself, give yourself a new alias, By then I was already going by Maritza, but I was like, just give yourself a handle that you like. So I try at Mama. This is on Twitter. I try at Mama because I used to refer to myself a lot as Mama, like say I hit my toe, I'd be like, oh, sorry, Mama. And I'd be like, hey, Mama, I forgot to do this. So in my mind, that's how I refer to myself. And that's how I refer to other women as well. I refer to women as Mama. I'm like, hey, Mama, bless you, Mama. So I tried at Mama. Twitter is like, no, taken. I'm like, no. Mama Uganda? No. Mama UG? No. I'm like, but I'm a city girl, right? Yeah. Mama Cla. So I didn't even want to write Mama Kampala because then it would feel like I am a person of authority, like Mama Chibuga. So I wanted it to sound like, a city girl. So that's where my head was at. So I'm like, Mama Cla. And that's on Twitter in 2012. But then I am chaotic as a human being. And in my existence, I caused problems as Mama Cla. Like I would tweet the most outlandish things. I'm very outspoken. I'm a little shameless. Of course, I have just enough shame, but for the most part, I'm mostly shameless, and I encourage conversations that I think people are shy to have. So conversations that you would think are taboo, I was having those conversations on my Twitter. So Mama Cla preceded even my media career. So I think by 2013, my following had grown quite a bit. When I started doing poetry, I used to get a lot of attention at the poetry events. So I'd walk off the stage and the person on the mic, because they're like, she's also chaotic online, goes, follow Mama Cla. So it became an attachment to my performance. I'm Maritza performing, and when I leave the stage, the announcer would always be like, yo, this chick, she's causing chaos somewhere else. Go follow her, right? So that's how really Mama Cla started. And then when I got onto radio, it just became, I think, a favorite for people to refer to me as Mama Cla. And I felt the pressure, I felt the pressure. I'm like, okay, now what do I do with this endorsement? People actually when people say calling me Mama Kampala, I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
Am I the one? So I remember even interviewing Jennifer Musisi sometime, and I had to introduce, I'm like, you guys, there's a real Mama Kampala and then there's an imposter. Kachiono ye Mama Chibuga. And then me, I'm just here being cute with Mama Cla, So that's really where it came from. And it took me a while to be okay with it, because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know what it represented outside of the online space. And I've just embraced it now. So I introduce myself as Maritza, Mama Cla, and I refer to many people as Mama too. So I encourage you, if you want to be Mama Kampala too, we can start a community.
Just take Mama Kampala 1, Mama Kampala 2.
Mama Kampala 1, 2, 12, all of us. And I'm really okay with people even using it, because my real brand name is Maritza. That's the brand name. And I like the life that Mama Cla has gotten on its own, but I'm still also figuring out what to do with it.
I know you're Maritza, but this conversation, I'm going to call you Mama Cla. So from now up to the end of this, we're going to go Mama Cla. And on that note, you finish the Kwanza group. By this interview, it marks that all the Kwanza group has been here.
You're the
Ninja
first.
C was my first, Sabrina was my second, and you're my third. And Kwanza. So I know you guys explained what Kwanza was when she hosted, when you did the finale of Sabrina's podcast. But give my audience a little bit of what Kwanza was, because people might be like, Kwanza, but they have some other language they're talking about. What was Kwanza, and who initially started the idea to start Kwanza?
So I might be putting her on blast. So let me not mention her name. She might not want this credit. So there is a big sister in the media space. She's a big sister to me, Sabrina and Ninja C. So this amazing big sister. So us, because we spend time in studio after work. I usually had the last show with Sabrina. No. Cynthia had the last show. So Sabrina and I would host straight up, then go hang with Cynthia while she finished TXR. And, we'd take pictures in studio. So this big sister looked at us and she's like, the way you three operate, your energy, yes, we were different because we are wildly different personalities, but we gelled so well. And she's like, you guys should do something together. You guys sound amazing together. And we're like, but why not? And in 2017, we were in the right place to start something as the three of us, because media jobs can take you for idiot. Like, we were all dancing in our careers. We were not standing on solid ground in our careers, to be honest. So we were like, yeah, let's do this. And I remember one of the first videos we recorded, Ernest Bazanye helped us. Oh my God, shout out to Ernest Bazanye, because we used a lot of his equipment to get our work starting. So when we started together, the goal was to be a digital marketing brand, all right, to sell Uganda as much as we can, and not just the parts of Uganda that people see the most, all the little things. We did fashion, we did a boutique hotel one time. Actually, we did locations. We did more than one location. We even did a hip hop branch. We did events, cooking classes. So we were really just showing what it's like about Uganda, and that's what it's like to live in Uganda and experience Uganda as a contemporary urban youth. And at the time, I remember we really just wanted to get people in love with their country. So Uganda first, Kwanza UG, you know? So Uganda first, then we can spread out. We did travel, we did food, we did so much. Like, we really highlighted as much of our community as we could. And then also we launched into the podcast in 2020, 2019 into 2020. And those are most of the videos that are still up on our YouTube. Every once in a while, I go watch the videos and I'm like, wow, we really were ahead of our time, because those conversations are still valid today. So that's really what Kwanza UG was. We wanted a friendly media relation, and we created that. We also thought it was important for people to see women in media on friendly terms, because you guys, when we entered the media, like, there was conversation and there's cat fights, there's fighting for roles here and fighting for jobs here. There wasn't very pleasant news in terms of relationship in the media space. So for us, it was important for us to have that perspective as well. So we hit, kill two birds with one stone. We killed many birds with that one Kwanza UG stone. And yeah, it was the goal, and I think we did our best with it. And when the time is right, it will return.
No, it was amazing. I never got to see the Kwanza, but when you guys were talking about it, it shows. And you guys still have the same group. Like, you might not be doing videos again together, or like each of you is doing something, but like, it shows the friendship that you've grown with, and having people that you grow with in your life and being supportive. I know, like, when I see your post, Cynthia comments there to support, or when Sabrina puts something, you support everything. And it was a big support. So on the podcast, I have a few segments that we're going to walk through. The first one is this or that, Maritza edition.
But I want to first ask you a question.
Ask me a question.
So I've explained Mama Kampala. You explained the Ugandan boy. How did you decide that this is the name of the podcast? I want to hear how that decision happened.
So it was when I started the podcast when I started my podcast, I wasn't in Uganda. I was living in the United States, and I wanted something that keeps the originality of where I'm from, because I'm a proud Ugandan. Like, even when I live in the US, like now I live here, like, my life is basically here, and like, I'm a citizen here, but that won't change the fact that I am a Ugandan. I'm a Ugandan boy. I was born in Uganda, raised in Uganda Yankuza. So I was looking of names. Actually, I didn't even think that hard. Ugandan Boy was the first one. I was like, okay, the Ugandan Boy Talk Show, because many people asked me, said, now you're going to be like 80 and then you'll be the Ugandan boy. Yes, because in the moment when I thought of that name, it was the picture that I had in my head that I'm a Ugandan boy. So whether I'm 80, I'll be that Ugandan boy who grew up in Uganda. So that explains to the people actually who asked me, like, even when I'm 80, I was a Ugandan boy before I moved to the US, because I grew up in Uganda. So yeah, that was the name, why I picked the name, the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. And I just lived with that.
I love it. I actually think the first thing that comes to you, that's the God decision.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful podcast name, and it says a lot about who you are, and even just hearing about like your efforts to put this podcast together. Uganda. Like, and I love it.
A lot of people had asked me, this was years back, so the Ugandan Boy, is it only guys podcast? But actually, I think I've had more female on this podcast than guys. But it's not a female. Yeah. Like, it's not just a male podcast. It's anybody that can get on the podcast to share. Anyway, I see Maritza is trying to confuse me now. I gotta
sorry. I am the guest.
We're going to play this or that. So this or that. You pick one thing. You are free to explain it, or you're free to say that's my answer. I am not explaining it. Let's move on. I have the freedom
Okay.
to. But the one thing you can't say
Okay.
is both.
Hey.
Hey.
Okay.
You have to pick one.
I'll pick one.
Okay. They're not hard. They're easy peasy. You're gonna just smoke through them. Stage or studio?
Stage. Oh, that one came so easy. Stage. And I want to explain this because I want to give people the freedom to have this conversation with themselves as well. So I'm in acting school right now. I'm a student of Yenze Theatre Conservatoire. In my journey to find the kind of performer I am, I explored a little bit because I love live performances. I'm not very good with recorded content. Even like I struggled a little bit on how to package my poetry album because I was like, but I'm not an audio artist. I'm a stage performing artist. So I had to now package my album in like that essence of performance. So it was a debate I was having. And in acting school, we had a little exam, sort of like a midterm where we got to do film with film students. So I had a full experience of a film set. And I think I did okay. I wouldn't say it was it was a great experience. Everything worked out well. God was on our side. Equipment was on our, like everything worked out beautifully. The directors were great. But then the entire time I was doing it, my spirit was like, no, girl, you're a stage girl. You're a live performance girl.
Mhm.
And then it took me back to my TV days when I had to do TV that was pre-recorded. I wasn't always in my element. And I didn't understand why back then. I think I'm just like, I like action, live.
Right.
So when I do live TV, oh my God, I'd flourish. I would come alive, I'd have like my best foot forward. So for me, that was a journey in finding out who I am as a performer. And I had to make peace with it. I made peace with the fact that I am a stage performer. I am a live performer. And the reason is because I'm the kind of person that lives in the moment. Once the moment is done, because I have given it my all, I release it. That's not how studio works. Studio, once the moment is done, to get them post-production, then you have to, now do marketing after, But for me, live performance, I do all the administrative work, all that stuff before, so that when the performance happens, I pour myself out. And it took many years to learn this, but in 2025, I learned, I navigated it. I am a stage girl.
Radio mic or podcast mic?
I feel like I'm going to say podcast mic only because I have lost faith in radio at the moment. Yeah, I'm going to say podcast mic, but I wanted to be the kind of person that at 99 years old, I'm still waking up to go and host a morning show,
Yeah.
like Larry King vibes. But I have lost faith in mainstream media. There's no freedom of expression there, and I think where God is taking me, I need more freedom of speech. So here we are.
That is what I was gonna say. I like podcasts because people can be vulnerable. Like you're not like with this, as long as I'm not abusing somebody, or even if I wanted to abuse somebody, it is mine. Nobody's gonna stop me or shut off my mic, But I'm not here for abuse people. But like I like the freedom on podcasts, and I like how when you bring guests here, and that's what people have told me, like you bring a celebrity on the radio, they're kind of limited on what they can say. But when somebody sits down on a podcast, you get the best and the stories about the things. When you get the best out of them because they feel at peace. Why? If somebody is trying to be respect, can I curse? It's fine. Just be you.
We
And that's
can
why I
all
love
the
podcasts.
FNEs and the ishitizi, whatever.
Yeah.
So now I'm a casa. I am actually a casa. I'm very comfortable expressing myself with foul language. I'm considerate, of course, where I use it. But let me give you a picture of radio. So radio, most artists come to promote something. So even in the way that we present artists and musicians to you, we are not giving you the artist in their essence. We are just giving you ka album kapya kakano, kwata single, and then we'll skip like 7 songs in the album, kwata neno single.
Mhm.
So we don't give you the the full essence of the artist. And I had a problem with it most of my career and most of my I'm going to brag. Yeah. Have you had Keke on the show yet? Please have Keke. I'm going to brag. Most of my interviews are great interviews. And this is something that I learned from Keke. You are not going to sit in my chair and leave you haven't shared part of your soul with the audience, because we want to know people. And sometimes your music gives us like a cartoon experience of who you are. And yet, when we dig deeper, you're just a phenomenal person. Like some of the best interviews that we've had, Yemi Alade, we interviewed, Sabrina and I interviewed Yemi Alade, and she came in a mood, she came like she was tired. It was the end of the day. All the interviews she'd been through that day like had frustrated her. And then we get her last. Right before she got on, I said a prayer. I was like, God, please help us give this woman a good time, because she does not deserve to go to a new country and, like be frustrated like this. We gave Yemi Alade a good time.
Nice.
Yeah. She just burst open, like when someone just unlocks their personality and, she just burst open and gave us who she was. And that was beautiful. King Kaka, we had King Kaka at XFM. I experienced a genius artist, even in the way he expressed himself and like the things that he wants to do for his community. So for me, those interviews, they would happen like I'm sneaking them in, because that really wasn't the main way to do interviews. And like the main way to do interviews, promote the artist, go, promote the event, go. And I like that I have been able to do more of that away from the radio space. And if radio wants to insist on its rules, please insist. Insist. We'll give people the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. We'll give people all these other podcasts to experience the same artists that you're hosting.
That's what I'm telling other podcasters. And when I get a chance to talk to them, if somebody texts me, put time in making a good interview. Invest your time in. I'm telling you, before I have a guest, I dedicate. Like yesterday, I was not busy at work, so I did more of. That's why I have a long conversation for you. I don't even know how much time DOP is going to give me, but I dedicate time to do the interview. And all the people I've had on my podcast, none of them has ever left this place and said, I didn't like that. I didn't like. You're talking about a musician. I hosted APAS and we did a whole album breakdown of his APAS album. Line by line, like focusing on the line. Why did you write this line? What does this line mean to you? Like such conversation. And APAS at the end of the day was like, this is the first time I've ever done something like this. When you go to a radio station, they just want to rush through things. Nobody sits down to see your creative process. Like, how do you sit down to write things? And even now, you're talking about media in Uganda, they're looking for clickbait. What is going to make news? What's going to trend? What's going to do this? So as long as they can get you to say something that's going to twist around to make the news, that's what it's selling, because they're chasing whatever they're chasing. But on a podcast, you're here to clear the air about. So I give people, and I posted clips on TikTok, and other people are surprised. Like, this is the first Ugandan interview I've seen that gives people time to talk. Like, that's what podcasts for. They're surprised that I sit back and keep quiet and listen.
Because you're doing the Lord's work.
So
yeah,
I think
and that's what kicks me out of media, everything you're saying.
And if podcasters stick to doing that, I think people are going to, in Uganda, they're going to resort to listening to podcasts because they're more meaningful. Somebody sits down an hour, people come to talk about that. So yeah, I love that. Anyway, those will be our this or that. We're going to jump into the other segment called Your Journey of Spoken Word. I've been honored to have Geoff the Poet, Irene Esther Mutuzo, Wake, Kabera Angel, another guy called Chibirige. They're all poets and spoken word artists. And now I'm honored to have you on the podcast. You might think that actually I met Kabera and I met Geoff the Poet first. Geoff the Poet, he came and I don't know if you've heard of him. Geoff the Poet.
I know Geoff, love him.
Yeah, Geoff is an amazing guy. We connected, and when I was doing my first live podcast in Uganda, he showed up. He helped me the day before set up tents and do other stuff. He performed with his friend. I always forget his name and I feel ashamed. Who sings Ola 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 yeah. He
Chris
performs
Bahizi?
No. He performs with Geoff the Poet. Oh my, he's gonna kill me. Oh,
I can't remember. I can't think of.
He has a song. I'm coming from Zimbabwe. Oh, I'm coming to you.
That's not Chris Bahizi.
No, it's
I'm.
let me dedicate time
We shall Google.
Oh,
Yeah.
I was going. But anyway, long story short, he helped me. Kameza Angel performed at my live podcast the first time I've ever experienced like poetry, and she did her song Javala. It was beautiful. It was amazing. She was also on the panel of my guest speakers. So I developed love for spoken word, and it's so creative. It's so good. I respect, and I've said this to every person I've hosted on podcast. Like, I respect you guys because it's not easy to come up with those words. Like, for me, and this is why God created people different. Like, you put me on a stage to do what you do, I cannot do that. And that's why I give you so much respect. But how did this journey start for you?
Yo, first of all, thank you so much, because the minute I fell in love with spoken word poetry. I feel like we are not working in vain. And spoken word is something that anybody can relate to. We are all storytellers in our different forms, and packages. So it makes me happy when we get another one. I'm glad we have you on lock. Thank you for promoting spoken word artists. It's beautiful. So how I started, so I'm a typical Ugandan, raised in a home where you're either a lawyer, pilot, doctor, like you pick your career. These are the careers we understand. And I remember I share this story not against my mom, because I know where she was coming from, and I love her to death. I love that she supported my career as much as she could. But when I was about 7, 8, I told my mom that I wanted to be on TV. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but I think what I was describing was show business. And she says, show business is not for you. Now, when she told me this, I actually heard it. Like, that's why it stuck with me. I heard it. I'm like, oh, okay, I can't do that. So I started to try and find other ways to express myself. Around 16, 15, that's when I got into dance. And I was really just trying to find my place as a performing artist. And in the parameters that I was allowed, because I was going to school and dancing in a church. Those parameters were allowed. We want to be a dancer on these streets, on the tracks that are moving where, whose child, whose daughter. So I was allowed those parameters. I explored those. I sang a bit in the choir. I explored that, but I wanted more. I think I was hungry. So when I was in law school, because I started school very early, the year I finished high school is the year I started university. So I finished high school in May, start university in September. I rushed, I rushed to get into university. So I'm in law school, frustrated, doing my best really, but I was frustrated. So I'd been doing it about a year, and then I was like, how else can I allow this creative to come alive? Because the creative wanted to come alive, That's when I discovered spoken word. So I discovered spoken word through one of the orgies of spoken word poetry in Uganda. He calls himself Mark Gordon, the slam poet. Amazing guy. And he introduced me into that part of performance, so I, went for a few events. I'm like, oh, I love this. I'm into this. And back in high school, I'd started writing poetry for fun. The things you do when you're just like, let's just write some poetry, share some love stories. It was just a fun thing we're doing in Yaten. And then, I'm like, I can do this. I write a little bit. I don't write well. I actually wrote horribly at the time in 2012, but I can perform. I have presence. I'm good on the microphone. I'd done a bit of that in high school. So I'm like, I can perform. So I watched this guy called Marshall Davis. Ooh, Marshall Davis has a poem called Spelling Father that is about deadbeat fathers, but more celebrating the mothers who have to step up. And he basically spells father as Mother. So this poem spoke to me because, hi, I'm a deadbeat baby. Still love you, daddy, wherever you are. It spoke to me very much because that's the environment I'd grown up in. And the way he told that story was magical in my experience. I was like, oh my God. Chill. When you hear a poem and you just get chills. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I'm going to do that. God help me. I'm going to do that. I practiced that poem maybe 2-3 months until I was like, I'm ready to hit the stage. So May 2012, I remember it was Kwivuga, and I'd been attending Kwivuga thrice before that, 3 times trying to get on stage before that, and they hadn't let me because I was a nobody. They're like, this girl who comes and disturbs us, but she wants to go and perform. So they hadn't let me on. And I think even in the way that I speak, my confidence sometimes comes off as aggressive. So I'm not always received well when I come like, hello, hi, can I? I wasn't always received well at the time. But now people identify with like, yeah, that's just Maritza. So I begged. Finally, that day, it was 30th May 2012, they let me on stage. But get this, they let me on stage when the event was ending. So the main act had finished performing. It was the height of, when you're drinking, when you're in a drinking environment, after like 11 p.m., no one's listening to you. You are unfortunate as a poet to be the one that they put on at 11 p.m. And that was my unfortunate first time on stage. Let me tell you something. When this man said, we're going to have a new act, she's never been on stage, show her some love, you think they were listening to him? They were not listening. Like, people were drinking, people were doing their thing. This is at Jazzville in Bugolobi at the time. And then I get on stage, I'm like, Nemusaga, I didn't come here to not be listened to. You guys don't know how hard I've worked to get here. And really, I really think my spirit was fighting for its creative life, because I'd gotten so many no's. At the time, that's the year I turned 20. Like, I'd been told all the things I couldn't do, and I was tired. Like, yeah, I was tired, So I left all of that on the stage. And to this day, I keep trying to match that performance, because I think that is the best performance I have ever done to this day. Like, I've not been able to match that performance, because that hunger was raw, that hunger was pure, that hunger was frustrated, that hunger was vulnerable. And then while I'm on stage performing, I start to see people walk in, people who are standing outside. I start to see people walk in, people who are making noise start to quiet. Like, people put their drinks down and watched me. I was like, Balina. And really, after that day, I was in the business, I got the respect that other performers had. I would go for Kwivuga and they're like, oh guys, Maritza is in the house. I'm like, it's me.
Yeah.
And then by August, I got the opportunity to MC the longest spoken word platform at the time. It was called Open Mic Uganda. Actually, to this day, it's still the longest running spoken word platform. And so I was the host for Open Mic Uganda monthly events, and also the PR for them for 2 years, between 2012 and 2014, when I got on radio. So that's really how my journey started. And I wanted to be an artist full time. I hadn't made plans to get into media. Even when I was finishing law school, I was like, we're finishing this, maybe we'll do entertainment law or something. But I want to be an artist. I want to take poetry around.
Right.
So for the 2 years, I did my best. The money didn't come through. Then we went to radio.
You talk about that, and that's transition to where I was going to take you. So you left spoken word a little bit and went to radio and you mentioned this on our podcast, where you said that for the 2 years you done poetry, you had only made around like 400K for the 2 years.
Imagine.
And then you're like, you know what? Let me go do radio. Maybe I'll help pick up my spoken word. Actually, it ended up just being years went by without doing anything, but you kept introducing yourself as I'm Maritza, I'm a spoken word artist, even when the last time you did it was like years ago. And then but then you come back, and then the money was different. You were able to get like around 2 million, I think you said on the pod, quoting the words on the podcast. Do you think right now it has improved that people can earn from spoken word? Because actually Kameza Angel talks about this when I hosted her on the podcast. Like, people will make an event, invite you as a spoken word, but they don't have a budget for you. They want you to do pro bono. Has that changed, or is it still the same thing?
So it depends on the God you serve. because let me tell you, I wanted to say it has changed, but my experience since I quit media is Musaga, like you guys are really taking us for Egypt. I still get called, like have some shame, Maritza as a brand name, even not in the spoken word industry. I am a brand name, in the media space. So with your chest, you're going to call me and ask me to perform for transport.
Yeah.
Like that has happened more often than I expected it to happen. So, and the reason I say it depends on the God you serve, because there are people in the spoken word space that are living fully on spoken word. I'll share this story. When I quit radio, I remember it was the month I quit. I attended Ibrahim Solo's event. So Ibrahim Solo is an amazing artist. He does rap, he does poetry, he plays, he's an instrumentalist. He's just an all-round gift. So that day at his event, one of my other favorite poets, Sebo Lule, was performing. So I ran into Sebo Lule and he's like, congratulations, thank you for quitting. You're going to make so much money. These are the words of a full-time poet. Sebo Lule looked me in the eye and said, you're going to make so much money. And I was like, okay, if you say so, I believe you. And then months later, I ran into him and I share that with him. He's like, I actually don't even remember saying it, but it's true. And then he shared with me why he said it. He's like, so for the first half of that year, he's like, this entire year, I've been living off my books. My books have fed me. My books have housed me. My books have, they've taken care of everything that I need. So I don't have to do what other poets do of getting a side job. I am able to live off of my art. And I was very encouraged by it because I came into the spoken word space with so many ideas. I'm like, yay, we're going to do many beautiful things. But then I also had to take a step back and allow the industry to lead me, because I realized I was in a cloud. Yeah. There's a lot of what I was doing that wasn't for the space yet. So it became now a conversation of, who do you know? How do you use your art? How do you package your art? Who is your primary audience? So what I had to do now was go back and create a business model for myself as an artist and how I want to exist. So as of 2025, Bambi, there is no way you're going to call me to perform for free. I had to put a cap on that. I'm like, I will come, I'll talk, because I have wisdom and knowledge from my experience that I can share on your platform, but I cannot perform for free. And I'm not even just doing it for myself. I know when people like me make certain decisions, they can affect an industry, because I've been here long enough to be able to do that, right? So if Maritza is taking gigs of 20K, or 50K to show up and perform, this is a conversation that's going to be hard. Someone will be like, but who do you think you are? We gave Maritza 50K. These are things people say with their chest. So I had to put my foot down and be like, no money, no performance. And my performance fee starts at 250,000. And that's just 15 minutes. So I'm not just doing it for myself. I'm doing it for the industry.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And I felt sorry when Angel was sharing that, because it is something that people, they put in their time, they put in their thoughts. Somebody does this creative work and then they present, and then you just offer them transport money. I think this was a different industry, but I think Nyaika said they invited him to do a gig and they said they will give him food at the event. I'm like,
but first of all, Nyaika's work requires physical effort.
Yeah.
Physical, mental, psychological, and then creative, and then I'm working the whole time the event is running. And Ojakumpa Mere. Hey!
I want to joke.
The trauma. The trauma. But in 2012, this was the norm, because I attended events where someone would even steal your 20K. You go to perform for 20K and someone plays your 20K and you're like, come on, man.
Yeah.
So I won't allow that to keep happening. And if you're a spoken word artist out there and you're watching this, you have to put your foot down. The gig you say yes to today, the repercussions remain for a long time, because now that becomes the conversation in the space. Someone is going to be like, hire this person, they will work for this much, So you have to put your foot down. You'd rather sleep tonight on a Rolex and then maybe expect a bigger meal tomorrow than, take a slightly bigger meal today to stay hungry forever,
Actually, I remember the name of the guy who performed with Jeff the Poet. He's called Kayondo. Kayondo.
Kayondo. I
Yeah,
haven't seen Kayondo in a while.
I
That's why
know
he didn't come to
Kayondo
mind.
is a great guy. He performed with Jeff on
Yeah.
my show. Man, those guys, they'll always hold a special place in my heart because they came and showed up for me. Even Angel showed up for me for my first event. I really respect and appreciate those guys. Always, anytime I get a chance, I'll shout them out because it meant so much to me that day when they were there. So you drop an album of work Wednesday. It's the title is Wednesday, right?
Yes.
And then you were
Wednesday.
breaking it down. The setup was amazing. The
Mhm.
videos are amazing.
Thank
It
you.
was
Thank
great.
you.
It's like the
Thank
way
you.
you present it to people, it makes somebody like just this is what I say, like poetry makes me go into a certain mode of just like thinking. Like you're listening to the person, but it makes your brains like calm and just thinking and go with the flow. That's what Wednesday was like for me for the clips that I saw on Instagram. But how did you come up with this and where did you get the idea to do the set?
You say all the right things. You're saying everything I want to hear. You say poetry makes you like that is what we are doing here. Oh, as our finance minister says, the money will come.
come.
For us, we are
Yeah.
here to do the
Yeah.
work. Thank you so much for saying that because Incredible Media did an amazing job capturing Wednesday and they made my dream come alive because last year actually leading up to 2024 I was having many explorations of how I could package my poetry because I am a creative person, you know. I'm not just going to stand on a stage and spit the words. I want more. Like, you know, there's so much inside me that just wants to come out, come out, come out. So I'm always trying to find all these ways. So what tripped me up between 2024 March and June was I was debating recording an audio album and having the live performance. So I am going to do both because I can benefit from both. But the reason I was debating it is because I am a stage performer. Like that's my expression. I need you to look into my eyes while I tell you these beautiful words, you know? Even back then I wasn't as good a performer as I am now. By back then I mean last year, because we're in
Yeah.
acting school, we're doing better now. So I wasn't as good as a performer as I am now. But then I still wanted like that engagement. You know, my spoken word doesn't just come with the words, it comes with my expression. My spoken word is the expression of Maritza. So the debates. So I came down to the live performance because it's the best way to capture what I'm trying to say. And I've settled on that. Every time I release an album, I will release the live performance first, and then I can do the audio and all that other stuff. Because even now I'm doing a tour. I perform at places I'm performing from the album. And I'm glad I finally came to that decision because when I hear you say stuff like, oh, the set,
Yeah.
I feel fulfilled. I feel so fulfilled. So Wednesday is an expression of self, okay? The reason I called it Wednesday is because I believe we get 24 hours to express ourselves. And my favorite 24 hours happen to be Wednesday. And I think in those 24 hours we get to express ourselves, God gives us different times and I call them seasons. God gives us different seasons in the day to bring out, you know, the best that we can be, you know. And the way I wrote Wednesday was from the first track, which is I Am Woman. Before you wake up, you are. So before I wake up, I am. And who am I? Whom am I? Who am I? You know, I am woman. And that's what that poem is. So you go from I am woman and then you wake up. And I was inspired by Sima Sabiti to write the second poem because Sima used to write very encouraging words for us on Twitter and they were so uplifting. Like if that's the first tweet you see in the morning, your day would have like a little more lightness, you know. We were always bombarded with dark news, bad news, and if you work in the media, the bad news is usually the priority, the more intense day, like, oh, but what that up here, you know, everyone's running up and down in corridors because something crazy has happened. So you tend to focus a lot on darkness and, you know, failure and oli bamuse, oli out of the house. Like you focus so much on darkness, which becomes hard to do day to day. So Sima used to write these beautiful, encouraging, uplifting words, which for me were like a way to teach yourself how to love yourself. That's what affirmations are to me. It's like you're teaching yourself how to love yourself. You say, I am beautiful, I am loved, I am all this, I am strong, I'm confident. So that was my perception of that. And when she kept sharing that, me being encouraged, I was like, yes, this is how you tell yourself how to love yourself. So the second poem is Tell Me How to Love You, which is really based on affirmations. And I start with, this day is magical because you are, it's really just encouraging, uplifting. And, that's really how the poems go. It's about different moments in the day. So we go from Tell Me How to Love You, which is, you're just waking, the birds are rhyming, you're getting to the day. And then the third poem should be around, like, I want to say 9-10 a.m., when you're now getting to purpose. What is your purpose? Are you a mother? Do you stay home and raise your children? Do you go to the office? Are you a farmer? Are you, the kind of person that does a lot of physical work? What is that purpose that you're getting to? So then that's why the third poem is On Purpose. So it's really just the clock, the seasons of the day. From On Purpose, there's this thing Ugandans do when they get to work. They first conglomerate to talk. And it's not always like sensible conversations. Sometimes it's, man, I'm so hungover, man, the weekend, man, but did you see, but did you? So like, it's like that mid-morning break tea time where a lot of time is usually wasted. So I called that poem Talking.
Talking.
Yeah, I call that poem Talking. And it's really just about raising awareness on the things that we say. Is it just talking, or I've forgotten my own lines. So somewhere in the lines I say, is the effort ya mudomo only? Like, is our effort only in words that we don't actually act on the words, act on the talking that we're doing. So that's really that portion of the day. And then from talking, we go to like the lunch hour, which is all food, all sauce. Now, lunch hour in Kampala, I don't know about the rest of the cities. Lunch hour in Kampala is famous for filling up massage parlors and lodges. So now the reason I call this poem All Food, All Sauce is because we encourage, as a society, we encourage greed in relationships, whether it is in infrastructure, whether it is even in like our community relations. We really encourage greed in relationships. We want to have all the food, but we also want to have all the sauce. Just take vinyewa and chicken. You don't have to have all sauce. But no, we want all food, all sauce. So that poem, it's a bit of a sultry poem, and it's just about greed in relationships. I will actually be performing it next Wednesday. I'll be performing it at the National Theatre. So I can't wait to see how it goes. So, all food, all sauce. From there, you go to the wedding meeting time. So all food, all sauce, I'd say maybe 1 p.m., 2 p.m., into 4 p.m., 5 p.m. So wedding meeting time, the poem there is Maritza, when will you marry? That question was a whole conversation while I worked at KFM. There was even a song attached to it. There's a song, it's like, when will you marry? This year, next year, or never? So that song was my anthem. So that's why I wrote that poem for like the wedding meeting time. I do throw in a little highlights of what wedding meetings are like in our country and our society in there. So from there, I go into like the evening time, which is a poem called 8:31. Now, 8:31 is supposed to be a play on time and date. So August 31st and 8:31 p.m. And it's also a play on age and years. So 8:31 p.m. is the date night time. 8:31, the date, is the day I met my partner, who at 31 years old, I had been with for 8 years.
Oh.
So that's why that poem is 8:31. So it's just that it's a cute, I love you, sir poem. So after that, so after 8:31, we get into like the late night, towards the end of the night poems. And the last poem is Of God. Sorry, the second last poem is Of God. And it's really just me saying a prayer of thank you for making me who I am. And I will do a video breakdown of God, because I think it's one of the most intricate poems on Wednesday. It's a it's a play on the Holy Trinity and how as individuals we are living beings of the Holy Trinity, So God, Father, Son, me, myself, and I. At least that's how I play with it. That's why I play with it in the poem. So, of God is really just a prayer and a gratitude. Like, thank you for making me who you've made me. It's sort of like saying thank you for allowing the God parts of me to manifest. And then the last poem is about cheating, and it's called Up Late Again, and it's about tossing and turning because you found out like this person did you dirty. Now you can't even sleep, you're having sleepless nights. And really, that's just Wednesday. Wednesday is self-expression in as many ways that we express ourselves in one day.
That's amazing. I like the breakdown you did, and it makes it even extra special. You were performing I Am a Woman somewhere, and you have this caption. I'm just gonna read it. It's I usually write down my intro before I step on stage. But this day the spirit took over me. I took off my shoes. So I improvised my intro before performing. What was that moment like? Were you not able to do what you usually do, so you had to switch it up, or what happened?
The spirits allowed. So I'm a very intuitive lever. Like I trust my intuition, and I believe God gave us our intuition, and so far my intuition hasn't led me astray. So if I am going on stage, I am most intuitive. So I move with how my spirit is leading me. So that day they were launching a feminist museum, and a virtual feminist museum. And the thing about museums is they tell stories of past, present, and future. And when I was getting on stage, I was like, you need to represent all three essences of our existence, past, present, and future. And my spirit is like, take off your shoes. Take off your shoes. Jamaingato. So I took off my shoes because my spirit demanded. And when I got on stage, the intro that I had prepared, because like when you're in feminist spaces, you have to, not necessarily address certain things, but you have to talk proper, you're not just going to be, hey guys, what's up? I'm here to give you some poetry. So I write my intros a bit more corporate, actually. Yes, it was a corporate intro. I get on stage, I'm like, guys, please allow me to take my shoes off. So what's the word? I improvised. Yeah, I improvised that intro, and I was like, so I've taken off my shoes because I'm trying to represent the past, and let my outfit probably be a representation of the future, and yeah, we'll deal with the present as is. Like I didn't have like a proper intro, so it was all patched up. And like for a corporate space, for me to do that, like it was awkward because I can fit in the corporate space despite the fact that I try not to always fit in, but I can. And that day I was prepared to play the part. But no, my spirit was like, yeah, be yourself.
Was that the poem that you had written, and then they said you had so much strong words, and then you went to the bathroom to make it a 5 to write a poem? And no, this was a different story.
No.
I think they were shooting.
So no, but you're right. You know why? So you're right, because one of the poems I performed at the event where I took my shoes. Oh, by the way, now I'm a barefoot performer. I do not perform with shoes on.
Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Because it allows. So I perform with a backcloth hat, and you guys, let me tell you something. Trees are alive, whether they are on the tree or on your head. Because when I perform without that hat, it's a different performance. When I perform with the hat, I am in my God element. So now that day when I took my shoes off, oh my God, like, I'm not going to lie, I felt divine. I did. So I feel like me actually just being in touch with the ground and just connecting to the earth and just being the way I'm most comfortable. I think that's an authentic performance. So that day I performed a poem called I am woman, I define as. So where that poem came from, it came from that gig that you're referring to. So the first poem they asked me to write, I wrote that. And they were like, too serious. So we wanted something lighter. So I'm like, oh, okay, I can come up with something lighter. But then they're shooting the next day. So me, I'm like, oh, so we're shooting, like just, cutaways and me being all poetic in my physical essence without the words. So I'm like, it's Kawa, let's shoot, right? And them times I was busy. Like, if you need a poem, you're going to have to wait 2 or 3 days. Man, it's time to shoot. I'm like, God, with the poem? They're like, with the poem. I'm like, I think I drank too much coffee. Excuse me. So I went to the bathroom. I literally had a conversation with God. I was like, God, we have 5 minutes. You're the one who will be embarrassed. Me, I have no shame. So I actually timed it, and I wrote the poem in 5 minutes. And it was a Women's Day celebration poem on CTV at the time. I don't know if CTV is still open, but CTV at the time hired me, and I came in and I did it. And in that moment, I was just like, there is a living God, and He works. So yeah, that was the experience.
That's good. I think I remember that story somewhere. You mentioned you wanted to start a spoken word podcast. What happened?
Yes. It is there. It's going to start.
It is going to start.
So that's why I'm like me, like when the time comes, the time comes.
Yeah.
So I actually have all the things that I need for this podcast. When we were ready to shoot, all right. So this podcast is based on a game, and it will be hosted by the Tribe Africa. They're now the Tribe Africa, the Tribe, formerly the Tribe UG. It will be hosted by them because I want a space for poetry in the hip hop space.
Mm-hmm.
And because, that's usually where we can flourish, especially in terms of getting our work on radio, mainstream media, and other places. So I have even done a project with the Tribe UG where we're able to go to radio and have poetry play on radio during like turn-up hours. That was surreal. It was exciting. So the podcast was ready. We're ready to shoot this year. This was April. We're like, okay, let's begin. And I'm going through my notes the day before I'm about to go in for a meeting. And I realize the podcast is based on a game, yes. But the game that the podcast is based on is very similar to what another poet had started doing at the start of January 2025. So I'm here the night before our launch meeting. Like, I have no game. Have no game. And I gave myself grace because I realized that the game I had created was actually, I just did it in a hurry, I was like, I can do this. You should know how I whipped up that point. I whipped it up in a hurry. I went, to the studio. We discussed everything, put everything in order. We're like, when studio is built, we're going to begin. Studio got built. I'm like, let's begin. And God is like, Dayo, go back to the kitchen. Go back and cook. So funny enough, I took April and May. I was really, really busy. So I just silenced my brain. I'm like, I have no time to start cooking a new game right now. And then start of June, I sit down and the game pours out. Like it literally just poured out of me, like the actual plan now for the podcast. And this game makes much more sense because the way I'd structured it before, it was really just about you pick a piece of paper and, you and the guest as the poets, you just freestyle something on it. But like now what I've created, I can even package and put in schools. I can even package and do a podcast tour. So I trust divine timing. Like when that happened at the start of June, I was like, you know what, God, thank you for not allowing me to embarrass myself. Thank you for allowing me to go back to the kitchen and cook. So I want to say by the end of June, so now I have to come up with 150 cards because now I have to package it. I have to have 150 scenarios that I'll put in cards. So far, I want to say I have about 50 because I did have 50 from the previous game. So now I just need to beef it up. I want to say by the end of June, the game will be done. And then maybe we can start the podcast in the second half of the year. So I've reached a season of my life where it's like, but will you die if it doesn't happen today?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So as an artist, I'm learning to give myself grace so that even when I do get back in like corporate activity, which a podcast will be, it will have to be a lot of corporate activity. I'm ready for it and I'm doing the right thing.
They say good things take time. So take all the time you need. Also the same month, June last year, you hosted the launch of Kunda and Friends. My daughter loves Kunda and Friends. Kunda, like we watch that show every, I don't know how many hours I've put on Kunda and Friends. It's amazing. So watching you host it was beautiful.
I love Kunda and Friends. Like I will sit on their live because the live premiere, it shows you, will be premiering tomorrow at 11 a.m. I will sit when the premiere goes off. And the songs they sing are not, you know how sometimes educational songs for children are dumbed down?
Yeah.
These aren't dumb. These are like you're having a conversation with other smaller human beings. I love it. So thank you for remembering that. I'm also a huge fan. I'm here fanning with you. It was a nice moment.
I love Kun and Friends. The songs they sing, especially when, like, for us who live in the diaspora and you're trying to raise your kid knowing about Africa, it's not like the white people thing. The what they make it like a Ugandan kid, because like they say, when they're teaching alphabets here in the US, they'll teach them A's for whatever apple. But like Kunda says Africa, and they teach them the countries of Africa, the continents of Africa, like Uganda. You know, it's all everything and all. Anyway,
It's beautiful.
it
So
is beautiful. You were hosting Film Hackers. That show
Still am.
was
Yes.
beautiful.
Thank
How-
you.
I listened to the first one you had with the video producers, and it was good conversation. I love the whole conversation that you guys had. I'm not a film producer, but even if you're not a film producer, you can relate to a lot of things they talk about in that, like talking about creativity, talking about like how creatives are today. You guys had a conversation about Tenge Tenge being known in Dubai, but not known in Uganda, like things like that.
Yeah.
The one part that I want us to talk about from that conversation was
This one is the one with Erenea and Musoke, Mr. Musoke.
yeah. The one with Enya Museki. They talk about the numbers. And this is something that conversation stuck out to me because I'm in that too. I think you asked the question. You asked, was it you or one of the guests asked, do numbers determine the quality of work that somebody does? Or like you can see somebody doing good content. Like you put up your Wednesday poem on social media and you listen to it. It's talking about I am a woman, I am this, all those good things. And then 100 people like it or see it. And then somebody out there sings a song, Obasimanya Inkudi. 2 hours, it has like 1 million views, like things like that.
Shifuda!
Yeah, Shifuda. So that stood out to me because we do this conversation. You sit down with a person, have this conversation, and I don't take it to heart. I feel like, and actually one of the guys said it, those people, the 100 people, got something out of it, and that is for them, and we're happy about that. But you made a point that Sabrina also aired on here, and I think you said numbers do not determine something is good, but you brought up a thing of quality. Like we focus on quality. Like you have to put up quality work for people to like. And Sabrina made at some point, she said, you can't just put up a video, the lenses are bad or they're dirty and all that, and then you complain that people are not watching your content or listening to your content. I put up the video, but then I had a counter offer too on another person who saw that clip of Sabrina. He didn't comment. He just messaged me inbox. He said, if we're not supporting these people with the poor content, how are they going to get money to buy good cameras? Or like somebody put up a video with a cheaper camera, but it's good content. It's just quality is bad. But if we don't watch that, how are they going to make? So like on TikTok, they give you money. If we don't watch that person's video, he won't be able to get that money from TikTok to be able to rise up. So there's those kind of arguments. I want you to break that down for me, like from your perspective. What do you think about? I know I've talked a lot, but like from that conversation about content.
No, I get what you're saying. So coming from media, of course, numbers is key. And I used to have this argument with a lot of my co-hosts as well, because they had this thing of, like some of you presenters, you don't do enough to put yourselves out there. Actually, so it became a conversation on who's a celebrity and who is just a radio presenter, because it became a numbers game. There's stations that have transitioned into hiring people with numbers and then training them to become radio presenters instead of hiring radio presenters and then beefing up their numbers, because usually you find that that takes a lot more work, right? So I like those conversations in the media space, because in media, it's numbers or you don't exist, okay? It's numbers or your station could go under or you're not paying bills and whatnot. So there the stakes are high, right? But then now when we bring that conversation to like the internet space, how high are the stakes for you? And I think I've now approached this conversation from a place of grace, because there's people with poor content, poor quality. Even the content itself is poor, but we watch them. We'll give them our time on TikTok for whatever reason, you know? And then there's people who their content is premium. Like, I am in love with YouTube channel Yange Prize. That is premium content, you know? You can judge the quality of the camera as much as you want and whatever, but that's premium content, and that's why she gets the eyeballs. So I've moved away from, you know, debating on whether quality over, you know, quality over poor quality, because at the end of the day, as consumers, all we do is watch. You know, we have time. Bandangenga, we have time. We have time for nonsense. We have time for not nonsense, you know. So it now becomes a question of you as the creator. What are your goals? All right. So now me as a creator, I am trying to encourage my goals to be numbers.
Yeah.
Because a girl has to eat. But in like who I am as a person, if 15 people have seen my work, I've done my job that day. I have done my job that day. And that's mostly because I understand what the power of words is. And I wouldn't encourage, like for me, I come from a school of thought, don't watch everything. You can't just be putting things in your all the time. Like, be selective about the things that you watch. And I want my audience to also be selective about watching me. I want them to choose to watch me. So as a creative artist, I am not in a position to care about numbers very much. But as a creative artist who wants to eat, I now have to put that as a goal. And now, because you understand that you're in a global space, it doesn't matter whether you're creating from Kanungu, from Soroti, from Istanbul, you are on a global space. What are the demands for an audience on a global space? You need to learn about branding. You need to learn about marketing. Do you intend to make money with the numbers that you get? You know, like now you have to sit down and plan it like a business. It's not just now a thing of, hey, I put up my video, some people saw it, because now you're looking for money. So I think at the end of the day, what is the goal of you as a creator? And I wish we could move from a space of judging content based on numbers, because we still do that.
Yeah.
You know, we'll look at a video and be like, oh, wow, 300,000 views or 300,000 likes. Let me see what they're saying. But normally that's not content you would watch, you know? So more than anything, I'm in a space of encouraging people to take stock for themselves and understand, as a creator, if I want numbers, what kind of numbers do I want? Do I want going viral numbers, or do I want to create a niche and a community and people of like mind in my numbers? Or do I just want to be famous? Now there you're playing the celebrity game, you know. There are rules to be there are rules to celebrity. There's a lot of PR work involved. There's a lot of giving of yourself in places you wouldn't normally give yourself to. So it becomes an individual journey, I believe. And I think that's how we'll find our tribe. And I believe that's how we'll even introduce the things we are trying to put out there to the people we want. Like me with spoken word poetry, I know I've found a lot of my community by sharing my album, by going to performance spaces. So I'm happier now than I was on radio, because when I was on radio, Bambi, even when I was on radio, I would hide. Like when Mbo would post something about me, I'm like, Bananga, you guys, leave me out of Wolokoso Wabayibi. So like I would be like
Shout
on
out to
Munkenke,
Mbu.
because
I think they collaborate a lot with me on my clips from the episodes. So shout out to the
I
Mbu.
love
I love
Mbu.
them, yeah.
I love Mbu, because so far they write about me well. That's why I love Mbu. Like every time they've written about me, I've not been it's kawa.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I didn't want to be a celebrity, you know. I wanted to be someone that makes you happy. during the day, whether it's drive time or morning. I wanted to be someplace you could find joy and excitement and someone who could validate your dreams, because that's something that I believe in Uganda. We don't have a lot. There's a lot of dream invalidation as opposed to validation. So for me, it was a thing of, I don't want to be a celebrity, but then now as an artist, it works in my favor to want to be a celebrity. But what kind of celebrity do I want? I want to be the kind of person that speaks to other artists and performs. So I've kind of changed gears in the way of expression, because here it was more chaotic crowd. Now here it's more artists and people who love poetry.
On the same the video you're watching, the guy who produced the song Mama Cla, and then you said that's your favorite song. How? I said to myself, how Mama Cla?
Hey, for a long time I wasn't a Chameleon fan. So Bombo Clat for me was just a hype song. And there are two hype songs that got me through high school. It was, I woke up in a new Bugatti.
Yeah.
And then the second one was, Bombo Clat. Oh, I don't even know that lyrics, but that song was my hype jam. And I wasn't a huge Chameleon fan growing up. I don't know why. I never really gravitated to his music. Then I had Bombo Clat. It was like the song I needed to unlock my chameleonship. Because after Bombo Clat, I could hear the chameleon everyone talks about. I was like, yo, this man is a bad man. Oh my God. But yeah, Bombo Clat was my tune. Then the fuzzy hair they put on, Bombo Clat is my tune. I can't explain.
I said that was the last question, but then let me finish with this one. You talk about your chameleon. You shook up Uganda with your Kameza money about the 1 million.
I did. What do you want me to say about Kameza that I haven't said?
Yeah, no, I actually, I don't want you to even, because you've talked about it. Everybody who has hosted you has asked you the same question. But I liked your opinion of like how you broke out how money should be in a household. And I think you were on GNN Network, the podcast that you did on with that lady. And you said how money should be taken in a family. And a lot of people don't think that way in Uganda, where you said, both of you, if you work, you bring money together and use it as a source, then you won't have any issues.
I'm glad I shook up people with that conversation, because so much that was ignored in conversation started to come up. Like, there's a lot of housewives that are suffering, like they are being financially abused, but because in this country, financial abuse is not a thing, And for me, I was just happy that people got annoyed enough to talk about these things. And I think I'm very happy to be the voice of uncomfortable conversations, because the year before Kameza, I had rattled the internet by saying everyone should masturbate without shame at least once in their lives. And then that conversation also kicked off.
What made you say that?
Because I have very open and vulnerable conversations in my friendships. And like there's times I'll meet strangers and be like, so this is what you talk about normally. So that conversation, I think we've just been talking about how we don't know our bodies. And by the way we gallivant our bodies in these streets. Like today you have given the other one, and you still don't know your body. So you're out here allowing people to explore something you haven't explored, that you don't fully understand about yourself. And it's like giving away your power. So the point I was making is understand the power that you hold, understand what you like, understand who you are, the things that you enjoy, before you give them to someone else to explore for you. And that conversation shook tables.
It's something that we're running out of time, because I wanted to go deeper in that, to just pick your brain and where you are. But I'm gonna end this with a rapid fire. Just tell me the first thing that comes to your head. You don't have to think about it. What's a word you always find yourself using in your poems? One thing people misunderstand about you.
People think I'm mean because I have aggressive energy.
If you had graduated law school, what would your lawyer nickname be?
Mama Cla.
Who is one African creative you would love to collaborate with?
Oh my God. I really want to collaborate with Fat Joe in the radio space. Yeah. I think he's one of the best radio presenters down south. So I've been thinking about him a bit. So Fat Joe from South Africa.
What's the boldest thing you've ever done on an impulse?
On an impulse, there's a list. Let me see. The most recent one, I got into a car with a stranger from Ginger to Kampala. It was one of the best conversations I ever had.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Mama Cla, it's amazing. I would talk to you for hours and hours. I had to just get a text from the DOP to wrap up.
Can I give you your flowers?
Please do. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Like, you have done a case study in Mama Cla, and I'm very happy because you make me feel like my work matters. So thank you so much for doing that. Thank you so much for paying attention, for giving me this platform, for finally being the first person to have all of Kwanza on your podcast.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. We love it. The final questions, I have final 3. I think you already answered one, but what's a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
Grace. Give grace. You don't know what's happening on the other person's side. Always give grace.
What's one thing that gets you excited about life?
The sun, like watching the sunrise, watching the sunset. I'm alive. Like, I'll just be on a border and then the sun peeps out of the cloud. Then I'm like, ah! The sun excites me.
A signature question on the podcast. Who would you like to see on this podcast next as a guest?
KK.
KK, let's go.
The radio
Let's get
god.
it. Let's get KK on the podcast.
Yes.
Anyway.
I love KK. Have you had your quiz yet?
Jaquiz, no, but I'm in touch with him. We're trying to schedule.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I love
good.
those two. Their expression is real, and they speak to the goodness of humanity.
Yeah.
You know, they encourage right action. They encourage, people loving each other, and I love to hear more of that.
Hey there, my name is Bonnie Chibuka, the podcast host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Also, leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. Thank you very much and be blessed.
Let me give you a special.
Actually, that's the thing you said on the podcast that you're learning to play.
Yeah. Hi, beautiful people. My name is Maritza. I am a spoken word artist and a female akogo player, which is apparently a rare occasion. I have been hosted on the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. I've had such a good time. Talked about poetry. I did a breakdown of my album Wednesday. Talked a little bit about Kameza because we got her, and explained why people know me as Mama Cla. So if you've always wondered, come and find out. I had such a good time with Bonnie. I can't wait for you to be part of this conversation. Make sure you subscribe and come and watch this episode. Bless you, bless your family, and may God continue to empower what you're doing. You're doing the Lord's work, by the way. I hope you know.
Thank you.
I hope you know.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Asante sana.
Asante. Padwe basinze. My studio audience.
Bali want to go where chikumi. Aba studio want to go.
To go and it's okay. It's okay. I've really enjoyed. I come to